abundance mindset, value and worth is knowing that your client relationships are a two-way street. They're just not choosing you. You are choosing them.
Good morning, good life. In this episode, we're getting into the details about choosing an abundant mindset. What does it actually mean for you to claim your self-worth? Personal branding expert and entrepreneur Jessica Zweig is joining us on this show. She's going to share her story and her thoughts on all of this. She's also going to tell us about her personal brand hologram. What is it and how it's going to help you to be the blueprint for an authentic identity and thriving career. It's time for some detailed therapy so that you can uncover your path to going after the life you want.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited about this one. I have been chomping at the bit to sit down with Jessica and share a little bit of her genius with you on the show. We finally got to do that, and there is so much to unpack here. I am not overpromising. You're going to absolutely love this episode. If you need to be leveled up, if you need to be lifted up, if you need to be in a better mood today, this one is the one for you. We have some serious realness to share. As a matter of fact, here is just a little bit of what you can expect from today's episode.
Everything shifted and today I run a very different type of company, but I'm a very different type of person. I've done the inside work of understanding what abundance really means, what service and love are really about, why we should be leaders and, create things in the world, not for our own ego.
Oh, you're just going to love this one. It's so good. If you're new here, hello, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm a success coach and founder of Get Lou House, a resource dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. You can see all of our work, including the show notes for this podcast, by visiting detailtherapy.online. The sponsor of this episode of Detail Therapy is our friends over at Smoo. Many women, maybe you're one of them, are struggling with hormone imbalances, and they don't even know it. If you have irregular periods, mood swings, unexplained weight gain, or are having a difficult time trying to conceive, then you're going to want to hear about our sponsor today. Smoo is a women's health brand focused on making women's health less taboo, which is why we're talking about it, right? Their best-selling product, Ovary Good, is an all-in-one hormone balancing powder. It is used by women everywhere to achieve optimal hormonal balance and help them feel like their best selves again. Derived by 7 powerful vitamins, herbs, and minerals, Smoo is the first of its kind to support hormonal imbalances such as PCOS, PMS, infertility, endometriosis, menopause, and so much more. I have been giving Smoo a try in my own health journey, and I have to say it has been making me feel so much better in ways I didn't know was wrong with me. So they mean it when they say you may not even know what's going on until you start to navigate it, and Smoo can absolutely help you with this. The best part is it's so easy to enjoy. All you need is just 1 scoop a day. Add it to your smoothies, your coffee, or even your oatmeal in the morning just to have those happy hormones and hopefully a happy life you want. You can get more details about Smoo by visiting thesmooco.com and on Instagram at thesmooco. We will link to everything in the show notes. And thank you so much to Smoo for supporting us here at Detail Therapy. All right, it's time to chat about the abundant mindset. Jessica Zweig is an award-winning entrepreneur and one of the nation's most preeminent personal branding experts. As the founder and CEO of SimplyBe agency, Jessica's visionary work in defining and enhancing personal brands has gained her many notable accolades, including being named one of Crain's Chicago's 2020 most notable entrepreneurs, Inc.'s top digital marketer to watch in 2017, and personal branding expert for Forbes, as well as the Chicago Tribune's top 10 entrepreneurs to follow. Her new book out is called Be, a no bullshit guide to increasing the self-worth and net worth of Simply being yourself. Let's get into my chat with Jessica Zweig. Good morning, good life, Jessica. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Amy. I'm pumped to be here.
Jessica Zweig, why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I believe that most people are asleep to their own power and purpose and light. And I simply hope that my work is an activator and an awakening example, if you will, on top of the tools and the services and things that I do. But it's really so much bigger than, branding, although that's a skill set. It's really about waking people up.
I love that answer. We're all about waking up here in the Gatlu community. So I love that. I came across your pretty new book. When did it come out?
It published February 16th.
Fabulous. So very, very new book. I came across it pretty serendipitously. I read a lot of books, and something I pride myself on is I will pick up any book, love to read, but so that I don't fall out of love of reading, I will quit a book if it's like not exciting to me. And I was like, oh, this looks really good. The branding, girl, it's on point. And I'm like, this is fun. I'll pick it up. I couldn't put it down. I absorbed so much. I mean, even things I feel like, it's like, yeah, Amy, you kind of know that. It's such a good reminder, so much great value in terms of personal branding, but that wasn't, even though that, I feel like you wrote the manual on that. That's what B is, by the way. B, a no bullshit guide to increasing your self-worth and net worth by simply being yourself. It truly is a personal branding guide, but I also felt like there was such a bigger message that you delivered very elegantly. And that was this concept of an abundant mindset, one of knowing your self-worth. And I do think that that's something that we really kind of struggle with as a community. And something that I thought you explained really well, and something that a lot of people would take away and feel very empowered by. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is there's a story at the beginning, and this is the moment that hooked me. When I say like I couldn't put this book down, this was the moment that I was like, okay, she's really letting herself out there with this. The moment that you talked about when you had to ask your parents for money. And I feel like that's one of those moments that we talk about in the Gatlu community. We talk about your low and we talk about your Lou, the life that's over with and the life you want. And that low moment is such an activating moment. I feel like that was that moment for you. Can you tell that story and kind of get people attuned to where you were at that point and how that elevated you to where we are today?
Absolutely. And as you're telling this and speaking this, I'm getting teary-eyed because that experience is it was so pivotal, and it's still very much a part of me, and so much of my life has obviously changed since then, but also because of that moment. So I have been a serial entrepreneur. I was running my first company at the time when I had to go to my parents and ask them for money. I had been running a very popular online magazine for 7 years. It was a women's lifestyle magazine in the city of Chicago, and it was very, very quote unquote successful from the outside in. And everyone sort of knew us as this it platform for girls. And I was the face and founder, and, sort of like a Refinery 29, if you will, but Chicago based. And inside was a very different story. And I was struggling with a very toxic relationship with my business partner. We had a very dysfunctional culture. We had no idea what we were doing when it came to finances. And I was 33 years old at the time. I'd been running it for about 6.5 years. And we were $75,000 in credit card debt. We had no money in our business account. We had no pipeline, no clients about to close. And I had personally no money in my bank account, my personal checking account. It was negative. And I had been living with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and he had loaned me money. And it was a big pain point. It was a really tough place for us in those early stages of our relationship. And I had promised I'd pay him back. I mean, I think he loaned me like $7,000, and he was like, it's enough. And my phone bill was overdue, and they were going to shut off my phone. And I had no choice but to drive to my parents' house at 33 years old. And I had to ask them to help me pay my phone bill. They had no idea. No one knew. I mean, this exterior sort of image and persona that I'd sort of built up for years and years was to talk about inauthenticity. And so there was so much shame and so much self-loathing and guilt around that time of my life. And I asked my parents to help me pay my phone bill. I did not want them to bail me out. They didn't know the details of most of it even. And I needed my fucking phone. I had no other options. And so my parents cut me a check, and the book starts with that drive to my parents' house. And the book actually ends with an afterword with my drive home from my parents' house. And the book itself is my own activation and awakening and understanding into my own value. And that my persona, the inauthenticity, the image, the sparkle, the fucking social media story, like, wasn't important unless I valued who I was innately as Jessica, despite the bank account, despite the following, despite the press accolades. I was being really run by my ego at the time, an unconscious wound, right? From younger in my years of my life when I wasn't cool and I didn't have a big magazine behind me. I was, kind of a nerd in high school and suffered a lot of bullying and trauma from that. And then all of a sudden I found myself the successful, quote unquote, successful entrepreneur later in my 20s. And I just was operating so blindly, not only from my ego, but I had no idea how to manage money. I had no idea how to lead. I had no idea how to be a true businesswoman. I learned that through the hard knocks of, a real life, quote unquote, MBA, making all the mistakes I did in a first company that left me broke. And it was from that pivotal moment that everything shifted. And today I run a very different type of company, but I'm a very different type of person. I've done the inside work of understanding what abundance really means, what service and love are really about, why we should be leaders and create things in the world, not for our own ego and spotlight, but for the world, for humanity. And so the book opens up at that real rock bottom, because I don't think I've ever felt so much embarrassment than that moment of having. I mean, they thought I was killing it. My own parents, they were so confused. And that was the worst part. They weren't even mad. They were just confused. So that's how the book B begins. And, I think we're here to teach what we're here to learn ourselves. So the book is my lessons as much as it is the lessons I'm teaching other people.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I have to acknowledge you because even when, you finally hit a point where it's like, I have to share the story people need to know, like, that's still such an internal moment that you become open enough to say, like, I've been there. Right. And even when everything looked good, I've been there. And I think that this is like the underlying story here is, yeah, everyone's sharing their highlight reel and everyone is showing the best of the best because we want the best for ourselves. We put the best out. We hope to attract the best. It doesn't necessarily mean everything is kosher. Like everything is good. Everything's not always good, especially when we're all just sort of fumbling our way through entrepreneurship and trying to figure out what it means to understand the books and balance the finances and when it makes sense to take a risk and how to make up for that. Just to go in on one moment of this with your parents, for anybody who's listening to this that maybe is at a point right now where they are having the ultimate weakness that I have, and maybe they have this in common of asking for help. What did you notice about your relationship with your parents after that point, when you had the ability to ask for help? Because I always feel like when we just put our ego aside and we just have that moment where we are just really vulnerable and ask somebody to do something for us, we're often actually surprised at the response. And as you said, they weren't even upset. But what kind of happened from there? I guess to give somebody an idea of what are we signing up for when we ask for help, the good and the bad.
Yeah. Oh man, what a beautiful question. I think that I experienced a level of compassion from my parents I wasn't expecting. I experienced a level of true genuine interest in how to help me even more, what was really going on. They brought me in closer. They didn't push me away. And I think I felt their true support in who I was more than ever before. And it wasn't the check that they wrote me, which was for not even that much money. It was the phone calls I got afterwards. It was the follow-ups. It was just checking in and making me feel like they had me. And that alone gave me so much confidence. Like, okay, you might be broke. You're not dead. No one's cutting you off. No one else is dying. Like, you're going to live. You're going to survive.
Exactly.
You're coming clean with what was really going on was actually so integral to like the healing and feeling more whole than feeling like there were more holes by me asking for help.
Which is so amazing. And also just like, how much better does it get when you're trying to get an abundant mindset? Because it's not just about, like, we're not just talking about money when we're talking about an abundant mindset. It is unconditional love from those who genuinely care about you and love you and are not judging you for this season of your life, for this moment.
Yes.
On that topic, I just wanted, there was a big highlight that I made in the book, and I want to read it, that you said in your preface. People who live in abundance, financially speaking, all have one thing in common. They feel at their core that they deserve it, that they are worthy of it. Self-worth is the cause, net worth is the effect. I love that so much. I really want to unpack that. I think this moment we just talked about was a big one for you, but what would you say to someone who struggles with claiming their self-worth?
So your value, and the experience, I should say, of abundance, we need to look for it beyond our bank account. It doesn't live there. It lives in the appreciation of what we already have, whether that's, I write about this in my book at the end, like I love writing with blue pens and I own millions of blue pens. Writing in a blue pen makes me feel fucking abundant because it brings me joy and it's true. And then at the same time, what is inside of you that lights you up? And I think that becoming confident isn't some sort of destination. It is a micro, daily, step-by-step action of putting ourselves in situations where we feel a little uncomfortable and we do it anyway. And we realize our power and it's not that scary. And we stand up a little straighter and we speak a little with more conviction. And then we vibrate at a different frequency the next time. And it's just like rinse and repeat, and we up level. And I think we really start to find our self-worth when we stretch into these uncomfortable zones, like outside of our comfort zone. Every single time in my career that I was asked to do something, like given an opportunity that I didn't really fully feel like I was ready for, but I said yes anyway, I expanded, I up leveled. I think that's absolutely a part of it. I think investing in yourself, like taking the time to read the books, take the courses, go on the retreats, spending money on the coaches, like really getting the feedback, understanding the journey of worth is an inside job. So really putting effort and resources and energy into increasing the asset of you, increasing the value of you. And I don't think that comes from like fancy things and where what you wear and where you live. It's like, how do you enrich your heart, your mind, your soul, your spirit? Like that to me is a total way of increasing your value and knowing your worth. And then the last thing I'll say is, and this is a practice, by the way, that I've really put on, and I really would highly encourage your listeners to try it. Next time someone asks you what you charge for what you do, double it. Just say twice as much, as just even if it makes you want to throw up in your mouth a little bit, which it will. And I guarantee that one of two things are going to happen. They're going to be like, oh, that's too expensive. Sorry, I can't afford you. And you're like, okay, you didn't die. You learn, okay, it's not your client. Or they're going to say yes. And that feeling of worthiness comes, I think, from like practicing the practice, doing the work on you, and then claiming the worth, claiming your value, stating it out loud, putting it out into the universe. And I guarantee that what comes back to you will be so much, it'll surprise you. And every time I've ever increased my actual financial value by raising the price point of what I charge, people meet me there. And okay, my new market value is what I say it is. In a second, it can change.
Absolutely.
So
I love that so much, especially the blue pen thing. One of my little personal commandments that I have to remind myself of over and over and over is spend out. And what that actually means for me is like like take up space in some ways, right? So, just yesterday was like the weirdest epiphany on this. I went outside. It's nice out. I get to go sit on my outside furniture. I've got two things for outside furniture. I've got a small chair and I have like the like fancy L Chase like long couch. And I always sit in the small chair. And I think it's because it's this little compartment. I'm not taking up a lot of space and I sit there. And I thought, well, why am I not just spreading out on the whole L Chase couch thing? Like I am alone. No one's sitting with me. I don't need to make room for anyone. I don't need to socially distance. Why don't I? And it's just things like that, right? The love of the blue pen. Give me a blue pen. I'm going to go buy some more blue pens. I have a favorite pen too. I have so many. and just spreading out and taking up space. That to me is, I think, a lot of what I feel when you were saying those things. And the price doubling. It's funny how often we hear that, right? Charge your worth, charge more, charge more, charge more. And then you get into a moment and you clam up a little bit. But it's amazing. I just talked to a client last week who, I have always said, stick to what you do. What is your process? Because all kinds of clients are going to come to you and say, I want it for less money, or I want to do some sort of special payment plan or whatever. And everything's completely up to you in that. But at the moment, it was like, she said she didn't want to pay it, but she's been on 10 calls with me at this point. Like, how have I not converted her at this point? If she's not a believer at this point, why are we not there yet? That's one huge question I think you need to ask yourself.
totally.
But then it's like, and now I also want these parameters. I'm going to pay like 10% up front and I want to have 2 calls of our agreement. And then I'll pay the rest when I make sure it's worth it. If you haven't made sure it's worth it at this point, you can't sell the unsellable, right? Like as the coach or the salesperson. And she texted me. I'm coaching her, and I said, if I were you, I would just say, that's not going to work. That's not how I do things. So many times it's like people just want to hear like, no, you're not investing in something that's kind of okay, good. Like, no, I have a process. I know I'm getting my worth out of it. So I know you get your worth out of it. And we're often just being looked at to be a point of leadership when someone's trying to decide if they're going to spend money with us. So when we clam up, we're taking away that thought leadership that they were hoping to get, that confirmation that they needed, that it's the right amount of money. So it's funny. It's like, yeah, double it. But the concept of double it is just like doubling down on yourself more than it even is doubling that dollar amount. I don't know if you have thoughts on that. That
oh my God, so much. And by the way, what's coming up for me is like, you bring up a really beautiful point, that abundance mindset, value and worth is knowing that your client relationships are a two-way street. They're just not choosing you. You are choosing them, right? There is a standard of your excellence, of your expectations that they have to meet. Yes, you are being paid to do a service. You need to come through on what you're promising.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, when you know your value, it's like self-worth is the cause, net worth is the effect. It all stems from understanding what you're worth. And that doesn't just mean your price tag. That means your time. That means your talent. That means your true partnership and how you operate. And if people aren't going to meet you there, they're not your client. And there's always more where that came from. And I've really trusted that. I mean, trust and faith and confidence and kind of the spiritual universal trust is a big part of this game too. And when I have clients that say no, I always say to myself, door closes, window opens, door closes, window opens. And every time there's more where that came from, because it wasn't an energetic match, whether I knew it subconsciously or consciously, or they knew it. But either way, it's a two-way street. And that is, it can be a true game changer. Like, not to sound, cheeky, but like, people should feel lucky that they're working with you. They should feel that way. You shouldn't only feel lucky you've got a client.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they want to know that their investment is going to a good place. And by the way, that person that was like, no, I want these payment terms. And my client went back after listening to me and saying, actually, that's not how I do things. So if you're not interested, that's okay. Take your time, whatever. She came right back, signed right up to whatever the process is, because all she needed was that confirmation that like, oh yeah, this is worth it. Yeah, this is worth it. And I've got too many other people in my ear when I know this is right for me. You've got to let somebody get to that point.
And Amy, I love what you just stated was so simple. Like, you spoke it, you just said it. Like, people are so afraid to just lay it down.
Mm.
And when you do, it's like people step up far more and respond in the way you want them to when you're clear, when you have clear boundaries, clear expectations. So I just really wanted to highlight that and applaud you for that.
Thank you. Love that.
Yeah.
Now, I said before, I feel like we have to talk about something personal branding, especially because this is, like I said, the manual for that. You guys have to pick up B. But could you just unpack one of there's so much practicality in this book. And that's my favorite thing in the whole world, is like, give me practical. This is a freaking workbook too, by the way. I didn't even say that. Can you talk about just sort of summarize your personal brand hologram? What is it?
Sure.
How does it help somebody to develop that personal brand that contributes to them going after that life that they want and creating it for themselves?
Beautiful. I mean, I love me a framework. I'm a framework girl.
Totally.
And so my whole book is chock full of frameworks and tools and tactical tips. And I thank you for saying that, because I really wanted to go the extra mile and like teach people real shit and not have it be some fluffy business branding book. Like, you're going to walk away feeling fully empowered.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. I really genuinely came from that place. So the hologram is the first in a series of tools that takes you through basically how to build your entire personal brand platform. And I firmly believe that clarity is king, not content, right? So you have to know your message. You have to understand your brand identity to then inform your strategy, to then inform your tactics, which informs how you grow and get audience and clients and all the things. It starts with the message, crystal clear, cuts through. And the hologram is the tool, the first tool that helps you to define your brand. Most people are very confused. Like, how do I tell my story? What is my brand? What do I want people to think about me when they hear my name? And so the hologram is really the hypothesis that, I was reconciling with, if you will, was like, branding is an exercise in clarity. Okay. That's just the space of branding. Like, you have to understand in less than 15 seconds how a brand makes you feel. And if you want to create affinity with it, that's branding done well. And on the flip side, we're talking about people. People are not easily understood under 15 seconds. We're ever evolving, complex, dynamic creatures walking through the world with lots of emotions and thoughts. So the hologram helps you really whittle down the 4 cornerstone areas of your platform that touch upon your business expertise, as well as your passion and your humanity and the things that make you your personality, to help you achieve clarity without sacrificing depth and authenticity. And so the hologram is divided into 3 sections. The first is your headline. So think of your brand slogan. Like, what do you want people to think of, feel in a statement, a word, a sentence when they hear your name? That's your headline. You can achieve that. Then you have 4 brand pillars that sort of circle that headline. And those are those 4 areas, like I mentioned, that kind of become your content buckets, your resources that you can dive deep into when you create actual content. And then inside of the pillars are what I call unique insights. So you and I, Amy, might have, I don't know, female entrepreneurship being a core pillar for each one of us. But your expression of female entrepreneurship and my expression of female entrepreneurship are going to be completely different, because we have different DNA. We're different human beings. And therefore, there is zero competition, by the way. And so this is about getting specific and drilling down into like 3 to 5 bullet points in each pillar that really define what makes that pillar yours. And then you get your hologram as this really refined but incredibly simple framework that you use as literally the blueprint for everything that you create strategically.
I love that so much. And don't think I've ever heard someone say clarity is king. But the more I thought about it, I was like, it really is, because if you jump straight to content, it's good to try things. It's good to kind of get your reps in. And I talk about that a lot. Like you really don't know where your passion lies until you get your reps in. But you
Hmm.
can still end up
So
all
true.
over the place with what you're doing in content when you don't have that clarity. And it's very hard to wake up with intention, whether it's just to be happy or to do your job or to launch your personal brand or work on your side hustle or whatever, if you don't have that clarity. And the reason I pointed this out, sort of back to the abundance thought process, is like, how much easier is it to understand your own self-worth if you can remember the story as to, and your mission as to why you're doing what you're doing? And I think clarity points back to that. How do you want people to feel when they interact with you, right? That's brand. And that
Yeah.
clarity is what drives home every single thing you do. It makes it easier to say no to things. It makes it easier to charge more for things. It makes it easier to say, I'm going to charge nothing for this because I just want to do it. And it's a volunteer situation, or it's your first client ever and you just need experience. That clarity, I just love that. And so now that taking that and then having a really practical step-by-step process for fleshing out what is my personal brand, I just love that. And I think that was a great, great section of the book. In addition to everything else sort of that follows it, that kind of continues to reiterate, you've got to go back to your hologram. So good.
Exactly. It stems from that. Thank you so much. I'm
Yeah.
so pumped that you read my book, girl, and that you loved it. Makes me
I'm a
so
reader, man.
happy.
You know what? It just makes these conversations so much more fun, because it's like, I get you. And this is why I always say this to people. If you want to know someone better, if you want to become friends with them, I opened this book and Jessica became my new best friend instantly, because you get to feel who they are and their methodology and really understand, what would it be like if I asked her a question, or if I got her advice on something, or if I wanted to know how she felt about it. It's probably in these 300 pages. So if you ever want to get to know somebody, read a freaking book, man. Like that's how I feel about it.
So true. So true.
Anyway, on that, everybody go check out B. I will link to it in the show notes. It is also going to be our book of the month for Amy TV Book Club, which is over on Instagram at Amy TV Book Club, for May. So we will be giving away a copy because it is our book of the month. So make sure you head over and engage in that fun social media ness. Before I let you go, though, I want to ask a couple more questions about the details of your day today, if you don't mind, Jessica.
Of course. I'd love to.
What's your morning routine like?
Well, these days, in the midst of a book launch, girl, it's not been much. I wake up and I go. But in an ideal morning, which I try to achieve most mornings, but to be honest, not lately, but ideal morning as I wake up, I'm a big coffee drinker. Drink my coffee black. It's one thing I can't give up. And and I typically go out on my balcony if it's a beautiful day, and I just watch the sunrise and I take in nature. And then I'll go journal, and then I do meditation. I have a beautiful altar at my, in my office at home. And then I'll get ready for work and I'll listen to a podcast. I love Align Within. I listen to The Daily. I'm just a big podcast girl. And I have my own podcast too, by the way. And so, yeah, that's a typical morning routine. I get ready, and then I've, calmed my soul. I've poured out a little bit of thoughts, and I've filled up my mind with some inspiration or knowledge before I go to work.
I love that. Starting the day on your terms whenever we can. And sometimes we're in a season of life where we can't, but that's okay. What do you do to
Definitely.
stay active? What's your favorite workout regimen?
I'm a huge Pure Barre girl.
Are
So,
you?
yeah, I am. And like, okay, so I used to do Soul Cycle and berries and like work out 4 or 5 times a week, like sometimes 6. And I actually found that when I found Pure Barre, and by the way, I go to the one in my neighborhood, and I now have become really good friends with the owner. It's not like lame Pure Barre. It's like really good Pure Barre. It's kind of like boot campy, but like still low
Yeah.
impact. I found that when
I acted surprised because I went one time and it was very boot campy to me. And I was like,
it
oh wow,
yeah,
this is a lot.
it's all about the vibe. So like I find that Pure Barre can be I don't want a blanket statement. I'll just say that my neighborhood where I live in Chicago is very diverse, right? Like lots of different body types, lots of different races, lots of different ages. And so the Pure Barre that I go to in Bucktown is like a real community. And it just feels like super authentic. Like people are there to like get in, get out. It's not snooty, it's really, I love it. And so I've become a big fan of Pure Barre and Pilates. I think that low impact, like high resistance workouts just really do well on my body, my adrenals. Basically what I'm trying to say is I used to kill myself. Now I work out 2 to 3 times a week in a low impact form. I lost weight, not that it was about weight, but whatever. I got healthier. I have more energy. Like I really learned to listen to my body as I got older, and I don't push myself like crazy anymore. I really stick to like low impact, high resistance workouts.
I love that. I'm always looking for the tricks to reduce time of working out, right?
Yeah.
I have to get more into Pilates. Do you like floor Pilates or do you go to like a Pilates studio?
I go to a Pilates studio, go to like a reformer class.
I've always wanted to try that. I got to give that a go.
It's hard.
Okay. So in terms of, you shared a couple of podcasts, Love the Daily. I've never heard of Align Within. I'll check that out. Any other resources that you would want to share? Maybe it's a book that was a game changer for you or anything else that you recommend.
So my 2 favorite business books, I'll give you my 2 favorite business books and I'll give you my 2 favorite spiritual books that have all changed my life. So
Great.
The book Traction by Gino Wickman was the best. Yes. Changed my whole career. And honestly,
if you have a business, read Traction, like no other words needed, just pick it up immediately.
Exactly. And then the second business book that changed my life was Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And it's a book on leadership and how to have hard conversations, give feedback, take feedback. An excellent, excellent book. If you're building a business and if you have one person who works for you or you have 100, you should read Radical Candor. And then on the spiritual side, my 2 favorite books are Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. Absolutely changed my life, that book. I do it every year. And then A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Everyone talks about the power of now, but I thought A New Earth was better. And that book really broke my consciousness open and changed my life. So those are my 4 favorite books.
I love Danielle and I love Eckhart. That's amazing. Okay. Great recommendations. Thank you so much. Guys, again, check out the book. It's in all the places. We will link to it. Jessica, before I let you go, I would like to ask you our final question. What does it mean to you to go after the life you want?
I don't think you have a choice. I think it's a responsibility. If we all are here on a divine assignment, it's no accident that we incarnated here on Earth at this time. Given what's going on in the planet, we have to use our gifts and follow our purpose and build the life that we want. Because if we're building a life that we want, that means we're inherently in service and making a positive impact and doing good work and doing good. And so I don't think it's maybe I'll go after the life I want. It's not a choice. It's like not an option. It's like a must have responsibility. And that to me is what it means. And that's honestly what drives me every single day.
Thank you, Jessica, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to Jessica for being on the show. Make sure you grab a copy of her book, Be. I don't think I said it enough times how much I loved it. You will too. Check it out in the show notes and enter to win a copy over at Amy TV Book Club, as it is our book of the month. You can also find more details about Jessica by heading over to Instagram at Jessica Zweig and the SimplyBeAgency.com. So check out the links to that in the show notes as well. Another huge shout out to the sponsor of this episode of Detail Therapy, our friends at SMOO. If you would like to give their product a try to balance some of your hormones that might be a little out of whack, that'll be in the show notes as well. And I want to give a shout out to a special someone who has given us a 5-star review in the podcast store, or whatever they call it, the Apple Podcast place. And that shout out today goes to OG Cat City. OG Cat City, your words mean so much to me. I read your review and the 5 stars are so sweet, but the words are what really do it for me. And I appreciate that so much that you took the time to do that. I really acknowledge you for it. Make sure you head over and send us an email, Cat City, because you have won yourself a Good Morning Good Life planner, which are back in stock. I'm so excited. It's hello@detailspodcast.com to redeem your reward. And if you would potentially like a chance to win a planner, make sure you leave us a review. You could be next. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back here next time. Cheers.